Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good evening. We from group 9 from Kuliah 8, we are going to present SCL presentation titled Aluminium or Cast Iron Engine, which is better. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Hafiz bin Shahri IZWAN. My matrix number is AS12788. Next, I would like to introduce HUDA.
My full name is NURUL FATIHAH binti MOHAMED KAMIL and my metric number is AS12459.
Next, I would like to introduce Balqis Nabihah.
My name is Balqis Nabihah binti ABDUL. My metric number is AS13084.
I would like to introduce KEERTHANA.
My name is KEERTHANA SHRI VANAN and my metric number is AS13431.
Before we continue our presentation, we must know what is an engine. An engine is a machine that converts energy from fuel to some mechanical energy, creating motion in the process. Engine, such as the one used to run vehicle, can run on a variety of different fuel.
What is the most common type of fuel?
The common type of fuel is gasoline and also diesel. What it is used for? Internal combustion engine is the common type, mostly used in car, buses, ships, and even airplanes. The main part is the cylinder head. Its key component is the camshaft, valve, and spark plug located inside this. Next, we have the cylinder block. Its key component are the combustion chamber, piston, and crankshaft. The crankshaft is located at the bottom of the cylinder block. The oil sump. Its key component are the oil pan and the oil filter. How inner combustion engine work? Firstly, we have the intake stroke. Intake stroke is where the valve is open and fuel air mixture is drawn as the piston travel down. Second, we'll have compression. Inlet valve is closed and the piston travel back up the cylinder, compressing the fuel air mixture. Just before the piston reach the top of the compression stroke, a spark plug emit a spark to combust the fuel air mixture. Combustion stroke. Piston is now forced down by the pressure of the wave of the combustion of the fuel air mixture. The engine power is derived from this cycle. Fourth, we have the exhaust stroke. The exhaust valve is open and the piston travel back up, expelling the exhaust gas through the exhaust valve at the top of the stroke. The exhaust valve is closed and this process is repeated. What is the criteria of a good engine? Firstly, it must be high durability. Second, it must have good performance in terms of horsepower and mileage. The third is lightweight. When the engine is lightweight, it is easier and is more fuel effective. And lastly, cost effective. Now, I would like to pass the presentation to KEERTHANA.
So before we know which engine is better, cast iron or aluminium, we should know what is iron. Iron is one of the most rich elements in the earth crust. So the most common iron ores that we have is hematite, which is known as ferric oxide, limonite, magnetite, which is known as iron oxide, and siderite, which is known as iron carbonate. So the physical properties of an iron is a silvery white or grayish metal, ductile and malleable. The melting point of iron is 1536 degrees Celsius and the boiling point is around 3000 degrees Celsius. So the chemical properties of iron is it is highly active metal. It can spontaneously combine with oxygen in wet air, which produce iron oxide, which is also known commonly as rust, dissolves in most oxide and reacts with various elements. It can react with hot water and steam to produce hydrogen gas. This is the diagram of blast furnace, where the most bottom part we can see we have molten iron. The molten iron is known as cast iron.
What is the difference between cast iron and the pure iron?
So before we know what is difference between cast iron, we should know what is cast iron. It is very fluidy in molten state and its size does not shrink when it is also solidifies. Why the name is cast iron? Because it is ideal for making casting. As just now, the question, what is the difference between pure iron and cast iron? Pure iron is metallic element, while cast iron is a hard, relatively brittle alloy of iron and carbon, which can be readily cast in a mold. Pure iron is a pure metal, while cast iron is a metal alloy. Iron is not composed of any carbon, while cast iron composed of 2 to 4% of carbon. Iron has higher melting point than cast iron, and iron is malleable while cast iron is brittle and less malleable. Can we use cast iron as an engine? So yes, we can use, because it has more pros than cons. It is typically stronger and they can stand up to higher internal pressure. Then the iron engine can produce more horsepower. Then it is easier to customize because certain cast iron can be upgraded without having to alter the engine internal components, and it is cheaper. Cons of cast iron engine is it is way more, which hurts fuel economy and performance, and it's easier to replace than repair because iron engine blocks cost less. If one of the cylinders or components need to be repaired, that it can cost nearly as much as replacement. So, and it is also prone to rusting because the stress and pressure of the engine blocks that it is going to be put through. So next, I would like to pass to HUDA FATIHAH.
What is aluminium? Aluminium is the third most abundant element in Earth's crust, and it is the most copious metal and exists naturally as compound. The physical properties of aluminium is silver-like metal with a slightly bluish tint. The melting point is 60 degrees Celsius. The boiling point is between 27 and 2450 degrees Celsius. The density is 2.008 gram per cubic meter and it is a ductile and malleable.
What is meant by ductile and malleable?
The ductile is the ability of a metal to be drawn out into a thin wire, and the malleable is the ability of a metal or other metal to be hammered or pressed into shape without breaking or cracking. The chemical properties of aluminium. When it combines with wet air, it produces aluminium oxides, which is a very thin white coating on the aluminium metal, and it protects from rust. It is fairly active and considered as amphoteric because it reacts with both acid and alkali. The uses of aluminium, it usually alloyed with other elements because it is low density, good electrical conductivity, strong, good appearance, and corrosion resistance. And the applications of aluminium, it's usually in aircraft or other transport, overhead power cables, and source of frying pans material. Aluminium as engine. The pros is it is a lighter, it is simpler to repair when there is an issue with the cylinder, and it is a superior heat dissipation, which means it rejects heat better, prevent overheating, extend the life of the engine block. And the cons of aluminium as engine, it is more price, more pliable, weaker power, and might require sleeving because it has two different types of material being heated at the same time. I would like to invite Balqis Nabihah for the next slide.
From HAFIDZ, KEERTHANA and HUDA explanation, we can know that cast iron and aluminium have pros and cons. So, which is better that we can use for engine? Pros for cast iron is cast iron stronger, produce more horsepower, easier to customize and cheaper. Cast iron cons is weight, easier to replace than repair, prone to rusting. For aluminium, their cons is light, simple to repair, superior heat dissipation. For the cons is expensive, more pliable, weaker power, and requires sleeving.
Which is the better engine?
From Afi's explanation just now, engine have the criteria for a good engine, which is high durability, good performance, lightweight, and cost effective. So we can conclude that cast iron is better engine than aluminium. So that's all from us.
Thank you all for listening. Goodbye.